In 1961, Fannie Lou Hamer went into a Mississippi hospital for what she was told would be a routine surgery. She woke up to discover doctors had removed her womb, without her knowledge and without her consent, a violent act disguised as medical care. Fannie Lou Hamer would later expose this practice to the world, naming it the Mississippi Appendectomy, a widespread state-sanctioned sterilization campaign that disproportionately targeted Black and brown women. This is episode 4 of Exploited Bodies, the history of medical crimes and injustice against Black women. Today, we shine light on Fannie Lou Hamer, one of America's most powerful civil rights leaders, and the medical violence that helped shape her fight for justice. Born on October 6, 1917, in Montgomery County, Mississippi, to Ella and James Townsend, Fannie Lou Townsend was the youngest of 20 children. In 1919, the family moved to Ruraville, Mississippi, to sharecrop on Marlowe's plantation, and by the age of 6, Fannie was already in the fields picking cotton alongside her family. She excelled in spelling and loved reading and reciting poetry. But by the age of 12, she was forced to leave school to help support her aging parents. Even so, her brilliance never dimmed. She continued to educate herself by studying the Bible. While working on the plantation, she was selected to be a time and record keeper. After the plantation owner discovered she can read and write with ease. In 1938, Fannie married Charlie Gray. However, this marriage wouldn't last. And in 1944, she married Perry Pap Hamer, a plantation tractor driver who would become her lifelong partner. Fannie grew up poor, but what she lacked in wealth, she carried in strength, courage, and an unbreakable sense of justice. She would become one of the loudest, most fearless voices in the civil rights movement, fighting for voting rights, dignity, and freedom of Black Americans. But behind her fire was a wound the world didn't see, a medical violence that shaped her activism and fueled the fight for the rest of her life. By the late 1950s, Fannie and her husband Pap had endured years of heartbreak. Fannie suffered multiple miscarriages, each one leaving her in severe pain. She would later learn that her difficult pregnancies were likely connected to the brutal physical labor she was forced to perform as a sharecropper, compounded by chronic, untreated medical conditions. In 1961, Fannie went into North Sunflower County Hospital in rural Mississippi for the removal of a uterine fibroid. She was told this was normally a simple routine procedure. Nothing about what happened was routine. When Fannie woke up from anesthesia, the doctor casually informed her that he had performed a hysterectomy, permanently removing her ability to have children. She had never consented, she had never been told, and she had never been given a choice. This was not a misunderstanding, this was not medical necessity. Fannie would later coin this medical violation the Mississippi Appendectomy, a euphemism for forced sterilization, a chilling term used to describe hysterectomies carried out without informed consent, during unrelated or routine surgeries, and often under the guise of medical necessity. A practice imposed on Black and brown women under the belief that they were unfit, too poor, or too uneducated to reproduce. Fannie would later state that 6 out of 10 Black women that went into the hospital were sterilized. What happened to Fannie Lou Hamer was control, punishment, and cruelty disguised as care. From the 1920s through the 1970s, doctors in Mississippi and beyond, particularly white physicians working in segregated hospitals, performed forced and coerced sterilizations on Black and brown women at staggering rates. These acts were not isolated abuses. They were enabled by Eugenics ideology and reinforced by state power, a system that treated Black and brown women's fertility as something to be controlled. If you haven't already, I encourage you to watch my video titled Stolen Motherhood, where I discuss the history of Mississippi appendectomies and the eugenic movement in further detail, and how this state-sanctioned practice targeted and traumatized thousands of Black and brown women. The hysterectomy devastated Fannie, physically and emotionally. She and Pap had long dreamed of building a family. Instead, doctors stole that possibility. But Fannie Lou Hamer did not break. She transferred her pain into power. This medical injustice lit a fire in her, and that fire would help ignite a movement the country could no longer ignore. Just months after her sterilization, she attended the local SNCC meeting, where activists were encouraging Black residents to register to vote. Fannie raised her hand and stepped into the fight that would define her life. She became one of the strongest voices in the civil rights movement, confronting Mississippi's racial voting laws, organizing poor Black communities, demanding medical justice, and challenging the U.S. government on national television. When she testified at the 1964 Democratic National Convention, Americans across the country heard the righteous pain of a woman who had endured injustice her entire life.
Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.
Her voice thundered through the nation, an unflickering demand for human dignity. Despite being unable to bear children, Fannie and Pap built the family they always wanted. They adopted 2 girls, Dorothy Jean and Virgie Ree, and later raised their granddaughters Lenora Aretha and Jacqueline Denise. Tragically, in 1967, Dorothy Jean passed away at the age of 22 from internal hemorrhaging. She was reportedly denied admission to the hospital, punishment for her mother's civil rights activism. The violence didn't stop with Fannie. It reached her family, her community, and generations beyond. This was the cost of speaking against racism and injustice. The sterilization of Fannie Lou Hamer and countless of other Black and brown women was not an anomaly. It was a feature of the medical system. Across America, eugenics boards, social workers, welfare offices, and state-funded hospitals worked together to control who was allowed to reproduce. Doctors called it medicine. The state called it policy. But the truth is, it was population control, racial engineering, and genocide. Black and brown women were targeted not because they were irresponsible, but because they were not seen as mothers, only as burdens. Fannie Lou Hamer refused to remain a silent victim. She carried the stories of thousands of women whose medical trauma never made headlines. Her voice exposed the system. Her activism challenged it. And her life stands as a warning. The system becomes dangerous when power and prejudice collide. On March 14, 1977, Fannie Lou Hamer passed away from complications related to heart disease, breast cancer, and diabetes. Illnesses all compounded by a life of poverty, abuse, and medical neglect. But even in her death, her legacy did not fade. She received numerous awards and honorary degrees. In 1993, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. In 2012, a statue dedicated to her was unveiled at her Memorial Garden and Park in rural Mississippi. In 2025, she was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Joe Biden. Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer refused to be broken. She transferred her suffering into strength and injustice into action. She remains a symbol of resilience, truth, courage, justice, and the painful intersection of race, gender, and medicine in America. To Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, we honor you. We speak your name, and we refuse to let your history and the injustice you endured be buried or forgotten.
We are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I pray that you rest in peace. No story should be forgotten, no voice should go unheard. Until the next time, I'm Lock Jewel, and thank you for watching Shades of Crime. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and remember to pray. God's listening.